What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take NFL DFS Wise Stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. Joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG, known to many of you. It's Paulie D, and you can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 D's. Paulie, what's happening?
What up, man?
Man, it's been a long time no talk at this point, right? We haven't, with football being the only show in town, there's just not a whole lot going on in these streets, man.
It's fucking killing me, you know? It's like, what do you do on a Tuesday night? You know, you sweat MLB, NBA, whatever the fuck sports slates, and like, we don't got it. And it's like, I'm watching Hallmark Channel with my girlfriend, and you could imagine.
It's a stressful time for many a DFS
Real
player.
stressful time.
Needless to say, to make matters worse, well, we'll see. I don't want to just speak for everyone, but from my perspective, we had the Monday night thing, which worked out well. I didn't do so great in the fantasy portion, but we did talk about betting the Jets, and I did place a hefty bet on the Jets plus 10, and that was glorious. That was wonderful. And as a Jet fan, they still managed to lose the game, which for me was awesome, right? Because you don't want to blow this. Like, I don't care about beating the Patriots right now. I don't care about beating anybody right now. I would rather get the number one pick. So it worked out great, man. They covered pretty comfortably, and then just enough to blow it at the end to keep this, the suck for Trevor Lawrence alive, bro.
You think they did that intentionally?
No, I don't think they. I don't think they are. I think if they just tried to lose intentionally, they'd end up winning a game. To be honest with you, I think that's just the way that the organization seems. You know, I mean, you got like Joe Flacco out there who's feeling himself. He was really feeling himself, and he should have. He was doing well, but that throw was just unnecessary. Yep. Like there's no way that Flacco, who is still trying to prove he belongs in this league, is going to intentionally throw a pick and give the ball back. Do you know what I'm saying? There's just no way. It's like these guys know they're getting fired. Most of these guys know they ain't going to be here next year. So they don't want to look terrible because who the fuck's going to want them? And I mean, they're already in that position. But, yeah, I mean, it was glorious. And now we're finally here, Thursday Night Football. And we've got the Titans and the Colts. And listen, the Titans are a phenomenal fantasy team. The Colts, in my opinion, are just death to fantasy from every aspect. Their passing game, running game, defense, everything is just after fantasy. So I'm trying to get myself into the game. I'm more excited of the fact that we have a game to watch more than I am into the actual game. What do you think?
Yeah, this game not too exciting. It is, the 1 and 2 teams in their division, and one of these teams is most likely going to be in the playoffs and whatnot, but I'm having a hard time getting too excited about the game or any of the plays. I don't see, there's options, there's a handful of running backs on the Colts you could choose from, a handful of, receivers to choose from, a couple more options on the Titans, and, different ways to go, you know what I mean? Like, with the Jets game this weekend, there was, 8 players you really could even, educationally roster. You know what I mean? There's options today, so it makes for, a slate you got to do some thinking and whatnot, but it's not a game I'm that excited about either.
Yeah, no, agreed. It's not the worst of all games because it is, like you said, football, real football wise, it's a good game. It's a matchup between two teams that are playing well, and you're curious to see what comes out of that. From a fantasy perspective, you're just not that excited because the Titans, you kind of know where things are going, but this isn't a great matchup for them. The Colts defense has been pretty good. On the flip side, it's a really good matchup for the Colts offense, but you just don't know where to fucking go with the ball. You just don't know where to, where no matter where you're going, it's split somewhere. It's like there's no direct number one answer. So we'll get into it, doing dirties as we do, because excuses are like assholes and they all stink, as I like to say. But hit the like button if you haven't already. Likes go a long way, really help us out, allow us to continue to do dirties on the YouTube and Twitch. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. We do all kinds of free DFS content, notifications bell on so you don't miss when we go live. Last but not least, go check us out, whitestake.com. If you're ready to take your DFS game to the next level, we are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community designed to help make you a better DFS player. All right, time to discuss the game. With that said, we've got a 48.5 total down from 50.5. The Titans opened up as 2.5 point favorites. They're now 1 point underdogs. So somebody's betting against these motherfuckers. with that said, I guess we'll start off with the Colts side, Paulie. Talk to me about the Colts.
So I think the Colts most likely play from behind. I've been mostly impressed with the Titans this year. Mostly offensively, they're just very efficient. They get the job done. They're kind of like smash mouth, Comanche kind of team. The Colts are decent defensively. When you analyze the Colts, like they really haven't played anybody this year, and I think they're a little bit fool's goldy. The line movement is interesting, but I'd be betting on the Titans. And I think the Colts play from behind, which makes me interested in their pass game. I think, I'd be like most interested in Zach Pascal and Marcus Johnson. You can kind of throw Michael Pittman in the mix and a little bit of T.Y. Hilton, although it's not turf. And I don't really like playing T.Y., especially this season, especially when he's not on turf. And then paired it up with Phillip Rivers. I think you play the other two running backs, not named Jonathan Taylor, especially Nyheim Hines, if that playing from behind and passing situation works out. Tight ends are in play, Trey Burton and Mo Alley Cox. I think I kind of favor Mo Alley Cox. I don't love that he's kind of been dealing with an injury, but he played last week, last two with the same injury, and I just think he's a little bit better of an athlete, and I think he'll be significantly lower owned. Kickers are in play on both sides, and I'm not really interested in the defenses all that much.
It really does suck because you've got the whole Colts offense is in a good spot. The Titans defense has not been good. I know last week, fantasy-wise, they were good. I forget where they played, but they were in a situation where they were, was it the Bears, I think? The Bears against an offense that's just really that struggled against everyone all season. The Colts offense is like, it's been decent, at least at times. We've seen games where they have been able to keep up. They beat the Bengals. They put 31 points up on the Bengals. We've also seen games where their defense kind of bailed them out, like against the Jets and the Bears, where they just held the opposing offense. But again, to your point, which we'll talk about in a second, we're talking about the Bears and the Jets offenses. But they have a good matchup, I think. I don't think the reason the Titans are in so many shootouts is because the defense can't hold anybody back. So you feel like they're going to score. You feel like they're going to do things. And it's just a matter of, you look at the running game. There's a 3-man split, right? You can make an argument for two more than the other. Like Taylor, for instance, right? So we saw him get the split 2 weeks ago. Last week, it was, again, about 30-something%. Now, mind you, in the second half, I think in the first half, he had a fumble. And he barely played in the second half. Like, they punished him. So maybe that's not the case today. And I'm looking at Taylor, who's 8,800. Like, that's a price where you kind of got to know. You know what I mean? Like, what his role is if you're going to invest that much. But I feel like with all these other players like Henry at 10-8 and the potential of playing one of the two other running backs who maybe people are going into this like, hey, there's three different, running backs. I have just as good of a chance at saving money. It makes me kind of want to play Taylor. But I hate playing those situations. Like, I hate doing that just for the game theory. It's kind of tough to put money behind it. When you're doing something really just for the game theory of it, it's, you just put money behind it. It doesn't feel so great. Then you got the pass game situation, similar situation. T.Y. Hilton's supposed to be the number one receiver, but he's been more like the number 3. I know, and target maybe not, but like had everybody played the season without getting hurt, and there's been a lot of injuries to this receiving core, guys coming in and out. T.Y. Hilton might have been 4th in targets. I know he's 1st or 2nd or whatever, but that's only because guys were getting hurt. He was the only one standing. And it's just, Pascal, 6,400 is the one I feel the most confident in. I know you do too for the most part. And even him, over the last few games, 6 targets, 5 targets, like, it's not volume. So it's definitely a difficult situation. With that said, running back wise, I lean towards, like Taylor or Wilkins, kind of going high-low. Wide receiver wise, I am with you that I prefer Pascal over Hilton. And then I think I prefer Marcus Johnson over Pittman. Tight ends, while Burton, I expect to be fairly popular. I agree with you. I like the idea of Mo Alley Cox at a lower price. We know Doyle is out, so we do want to take advantage. And I mean, even that, man, that would have been a fucking 3-headed monster that we were supposed to deal with today. I mean, luckily for us, he is out. And that's the situation. But that's kind of where I'm at with the offense. I do think I have some interest in and playing Phillip Rivers as well, just for the sake of raw points. And to Paulie's point, if the Colts do end up trailing in this game, then obviously they're going to want to throw the ball. Now, I also like the idea of pairing said running back, probably more of a Wilkins or something like that, with the quarterback, Phillip Rivers. And 1 second, because Paulie is hung up on the call. Real slick, bro. And we're back. So, with that said, Paulie, talk to me about the Titans.
The Titans, yeah. So it's kind of the same story. I'm really more into the passing game.
Your audio changed a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Was it some Wi-Fi connection disconnection type shit?
How about now?
I think it sounds better.
Sounds better?
Yeah, I think so.
Little?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Go for it.
All right. We're back. All right. So I think it's like the same story with the Titans. I think this is mostly the pass game that I'm interested in. I mean, obviously Derrick Henry, raw points wise, most likely going to be in optimals. I'm not really that into him in the captain, but I'll probably have like 80% of him in the flex spot. The pass game is really where I think that they can thrive. I know the Colts have been good, versus the pass, versus the run, but I really don't think that's real. I think that's a product of who they've played and the way their offense kind of, slowly trods up the field and keeps the ball out of the hands of the opposing team. So, give me some Tannehill with like A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, and that's like it. I'm really not into the Jonus. Same as the other side. I prefer Fursker. I just think that like obviously the money's cheaper, and he seems to always get like that sneaky touchdown. It's like perfect for showdowns, and he'll be low owned. Where like Jonnu Smith's probably going to be higher owned than you want to be on him. So 2 receivers and Tannehill, and I'm just going to have Henry in most lineups because it's really not that hard to fit him in, and he'll probably be one of the top raw scoring players on the slate. And I like the kicker again.
Yeah, I actually like the kicker also. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Titans to me are a little bit easier to narrow down. Like, AJ Brown's in that conversation if you like the pass game. On a one-game slate, obviously there's merit to fading him or at least in certain teams. I personally am playing him because I don't really see the pass games succeeding much without him. I will say this, if you're not playing Brown, then obviously you're probably going to want Corey Davis because it's likely that one of those guys handles a lot of the pass game workload, if not both. The Henry situation, I'm kind of with you. I just not all that into it. The Colts defense, whether you want to say it or I agree with you that they haven't really played anyone, but they show up well on DVOA and metrics like that, which are intimidating. But to Paulie's point, I don't have a ton of confidence in the guys they played. I mean, Jacksonville put up 27 points on them in week 1. No, that was week 1. They were in that game with the Browns, and I know the defense scored a lot for the Browns that day. It just, I don't know what we're seeing from the Colts. I'm not convinced of anything yet. I don't know what they are. That's the worst part about it. It's not even the rotations and all this crazy shit. The worst part about the Colts is you don't even know what their identity is because they're just fucking all over the place. I'm with you on Jonnu. I think I'd rather play Fursker, and I like the kicker Gostkowski, but I'm not saying I don't like Henry. Obviously, I like Henry, but I am more interested. I think there's more upside in this particular matchup in a Tannehill Brown type, like the pass game. Said it all fucking weird. With that said, I guess let's talk about some of the captains. Like who are your favorite captains?
Favorite captains are probably the group of receivers from either side. Like Zach Pascal's probably my favorite. There's just a chance that Tennessee doesn't need to do a ton through the air, that they play from ahead. Derrick Henry's, getting 30 carries, and these guys have like a moderate day where like for their prices, Zach Pascal, Marcus Johnson, Michael Pittman, all have big upside. All have, multiple catch, multiple yard, multiple touchdown type upside, especially playing from behind. And at their prices, they allow you to still get an A.J. Brown and a Derrick Henry and what's his name? The quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Like, you still can get the players you want by putting one of them in the wide receiver, in the captain slot. So give me Pascal, give me Pittman, give me Johnson. Or like a Corey Davis, maybe that game script doesn't happen that I'm expecting, and it's the other way. And then the Titan receivers could actually smash. And I tend to think Corey Davis will be very low in the captain. So I just like that mid-tier receiver from either side.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I expect A.J. Brown, Derrick Henry to be amongst two of the most popular captains on the slate. And for good reason. And again, like I think we should play them for their raw points, but the captain is really where you can get different enough, I think. And it does make more sense to take a shot on some of the cheaper guys. I do like Pascal. I do like AJ Brown. I think if I was going to pick one, I would pick AJ Brown over Henry, but it's by like a thin margin. But I'm with you. I think that the Pascal builds are interesting. The Corey Davis captain is a very interesting build. I know he's coming off a game where he got like no targets. It was like nothing going on. But I mean, before that, he was getting dealt some dirties. And I will say this, like, I think if you put Tannehill on the captain, I think you want them both. Like, if you're doing a Tannehill captain, I would play Brown and Corey Davis, or at least two of the passing combinations or the receivers, right? Like, you could throw in a first girl as a third option because he's cheap. Not saying you can't play Henry in that lineup. I just think you want to prioritize the receivers, because if you want Tannehill to really go off, it's going to take two of those guys to do, like, maybe one of them really smashes, but two of those guys are going to have to do fairly well for one game slate. Cack. Shout out to MG who says, sorry, CK, I was watching you wrestle Prince. Prince. You know, it's funny. He's a friend of a buddy of mine still. And I never knew how to say his wrestling name. It's like, I kind of thought he was like an Egyptian prince. That was his gimmick thing. And like, good dude, but I never learned how to pronounce his wrestling name. He's a white guy. He's not actually Egyptian, so I don't know where it came from. but here's a question from C. Moss: can you roster two receivers without the QB?
Yeah, you could, especially from the Colts side, but I'd much rather have the QB.
Yeah, I agree. Pricing has a lot to do with that. I'm more inclined to say yes if the total price of those two receivers isn't that bad. Like, if you're paying up for like Brown and you want to take like a Fursker, who I know is a tight end but same concept, sure, he's only 2,200. Couple catches, he's there. But to take him and Corey Davis with no Tannehill, I'd be like, what's the point? Like, you're almost rooting against one of those guys now. Tannehill's going to be attached to all those successes, all those successions. You know what I'm saying? Dirties all day. Successions. Hit the like button, nation. With that said, we'll do the Vegas picks. Paulie, I know you kind of already said that. I forgot what you said, but I didn't. You picked it, but fuck. We'll do the total first.
Okay.
48.5. Over under.
40 or 48?
48.5.
Under.
Oh, dirty. So, do you like the defenses at all in this action?
No.
I
got it.
I'll go over. I was expecting you to say over, and then I was like, oh shit. But so field goal action. Do you like the field goal action?
Long drives that take the clock down. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like 24, 21, 45, right under.
Dirt.
But defenses ain't worth it.
Just dirt. Defenses ain't worth it. All right, now the Colts, we'll do with the live line, which is -1. Colts -1. Titans, right?
Titans.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. You know, it was funny because like this whole day, I've been looking for a side to bet on, and I couldn't come to a conclusion. I'm just not going to do it, right? Because right now, everything I'm looking at tells me I should be betting the Colts because it looks like the smart money might be on there, whatever. And I just couldn't. Yeah. I just couldn't do it. Right, but then when I was introduced in the game in the beginning, and I was like, "Yeah, the Titans defense I think sucks. Colts defense is actually decent." Like the matchups put into perspective, and I'm like, maybe the Colts should be favored in this game. When you think about like the way the game flows, because like, are we biased because of our fantasy? Like, are we biased because of the way the teams win? Are we biased towards the Titans because of how they win, because they play fantasy friendly? You know what I'm saying? Like is that a thing? And the Colts, we just kind of like, man, fuck the Colts because we don't like them for fantasy, and so we're a little biased. I don't know.
I don't think so, though. I just think I took a look at who they played, and I wasn't impressed.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
They lost to the Jets,
No, I do agree with that. I mean, they beat up on the Lions, big fucking deal. They lost by 14 to the Ravens, which, like, not for nothing, not to knock Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, but their offense has just not been clicking this year. Just not. Right? So it's not like you beat the Ravens from last year. Difference, I mean, or
they didn't
beat them. You held them. Yes. But you held them to that 24 points. I'm with you. They beat the Bengals in a shootout, 31-27. It's the Bengals we're talking about. Beat up the Jets, 36-7. I'm with you. They got beat up by the Browns. It's tough. But I tell you one thing. Pretty much all those games, fantasy-wise, were ugly.
Yeah.
like fugly type. With that said, we gonna get up out of her. Oh, I ask one last question. Who's your favorite value play?
Michael Pittman or Marcus Johnson.
Boom, Dirty Town.
I had a hard time like choosing between the two.
Yeah.
They're both kind of like the same guy.
Yeah.
They're both tall, strong, athletic, big receivers that, they're like Denzel Mims.
And last week Hilton was out, so they both played a lot. So it's like,
yeah.
Who do you think is is more likely to keep their role this week?
I think they're gonna have like a similar situation to the running backs where they all kind of get split. Yeah, 40% of the snaps, all of them kind of deal. They'll probably do a lot of 3 wide situations, and all 3 will be on the field.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it looks like that's kind of what they did a couple weeks ago. Well, T.Y. Hilton got hurt in that game, so maybe that's not that was the game he got hurt in, right? He played 36% of the snaps. And then they go to week 7. You've never had these guys all healthy together, so it doesn't matter. Like you're not really going to know, because there was always somebody that got hurt or was hurt, or it is what it is. I mean,
I can confidently say Pascal's ahead of them too, though.
Yeah, I feel more confident with him, especially playing out of the slot.
Yeah.
And I mean, if Paris Campbell was here, we might actually have a number 1 receiver on this team. It was looking that way.
Yeah.
It was looking that way. But all right, Nation, we're going to get up out of here. Appreciate those of you hanging out with us live. Make sure you come back for tomorrow night, the big show. Myself, Paulie D, Patio Joe, NFL Live Stream Status, talk about Week 10's main slate. It's a weird one, but I'm kind of like already looking at the way I'm going to approach it, and I don't think there's a ton that's going to change for me now that we have a lot of the news we have, like Christian McCaffrey being doubtful, etc., etc. So definitely be a show you want to tune into. The Listener League for the main slate, DraftKings and FanDuel. The link's in this description as well. I copied it over from the First Look show. Join winner. It's free to get in. FanDuel one for FanDuel, one for DraftKings, and winner gets $25 on each site. So if you win, we could fucking win them both and win $50, you greedy bastard. But either way, we'll dissect your lineup on the First Look show on Tuesday, as we always do. Give props where props is due. Matter of fact, I got a DM from our winner. I'd like to share this. I got a little DM from the winner of the FanDuel contest over the weekend. He's a member who's not like he's not super active in the Slack these days, JM Sword. But I got this DM in Slack after he won the contest. He says, "What up, CK? Thanks for the shout out during the First Look show. I too want to give a shout out to the Nation. The Nation is great, man. I really think I've come a long way since joining, learning every day, and that's because of you, Paulie D, Patio Joe, and this community. Everyone looks out for one another, no judgment, always looking to help each other. Keep up the good work. Do dirties." Gotta end it.
I like that.
Gotta end it with the do dirties. So shout out to him.
Nice.
Oh, it is nice because in the Slack we have our guys like D Millie and our boy Smitty and there's a bunch of them. MG, I think they're all in there doing their thing. Craig, but you still have a bunch of people that aren't in the Slack that are following along in the Slack. They're watching the conversations and they're learning what they can throughout them conversations. They're going back and reading what was discussed. So even those of you who are more active in the Slack, you may not realize how many people are actually reading what you're saying, and it's actually helping them. So, it's why it's important to keep things rolling. So I'm gonna hop in there over the weekend, make sure we talk about the main slate, because we gotta make some money, and like waiting once a week, like if we're gonna have to fucking wait all week for another sweat, then we better fucking make the most of it. It's brutal. It's brutal.
Do that.
With that said, for Paulie D, for myself, the entire White Sig Nation, as always, good luck.
Flash drafts.